Welcome once again to the Tilton Ground Morning Paper Podcast. Again, I am your host, Greg Flamong, and with me is my boy, Tim Norcus. What's up, Timmy?
Oh, same old, same old.
Same old, same old. All right, we both just finished watching the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the San Antonio Spurs. I guess it was like 110-97, something like that.
Yeah. The Spurs led by four after three, and then basically they just had no offense in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, just everything kind of shut down, and Kevin Durant took over. He scored 41.
Yeah,
Um, so pretty good night for him. Russell Westbrook had a bunch of assists. He did a lot of Russell Westbrook hustle things.
he had more assists than the entire Spurs team.
That sounds like not a lot of ball movement because 14 is a lot of assists, but it's not an inordinate amount
Yeah.
of assists.
Well, he finished
So,
with he had 14 points, 7 rebounds, 15 assists. Is what they're crediting him with as 15.
okay. So that series is tied at 2, and they'll go back to San Antonio for game 5. How do you feel about that series, just in general?
Like I think that I don't want to listen to Chris Webber.
Huh. Okay. Well,
Like
not
honestly,
every
like
game.
that's the one that's the one thing. Like it kills me because he's with Marv Albert, and Marv is so great, and Chris Webber is just yeah. I mean, it's not that it's super distracting, but he talks over him a lot,
Uh-huh.
and I don't even remember him be like I maybe I shouldn't watch that much TNT this year, but I just didn't think he was like hey, let's put him on Spurs Thunder.
I think that, well, I mean, it's a TNT thing. They don't have a lot of games. I guess he's their number one guy, right?
Well, I think well, see that's interesting because I'm not sure because I think Marv is, but I thought Reggie Miller, but I think Reggie Miller might be with Kevin Harlan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. To me, Reggie Miller isn't exactly he's not exactly going into the Hall of Fame for his broadcasting, so
No,
I
but
don't
I
know.
mean I think at least like for him, it's like he knows when to like not talk over the play-by-play guy.
It is a common problem for former players because I feel like Chris Webber, he obviously knows a lot, so he wants to give all that he has. Um, and I think these guys kind of forget like the game is more important than what you know, and the
Right.
production of the game is more important than what you know. So um, he's probably hurt by that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm hopefully I don't know who carries the game next in the game 5, but hopefully it's
On
ESPN.
they
He won't
said
have
on
to deal with it.
Tuesday, Marv said we'll be there.
Oh,
So yeah.
maybe you can mute it or something, or catch one of the radio feeds.
Um. So on the court, I feel and I mean, I maybe I've had a lesser opinion of this player than most people, but like it still feels like you're waiting for him to take like the leap into being I don't want to say an elite player because he is an elite player, but like there are times where Kawhi Leonard just totally disappears for them. I
He
mean,
does.
just totally disappears. And
This happened
so
this happened last year as well
yeah, like and
against the Clippers, especially in that game 7.
right, like he's great and he's the defense player of the year, and I have no problem with that. But like offensively, like I mean, there's just too many nights like tonight. I guess it feels like at least.
Yeah, it
So
did feel like he was dominating just kind of the run of play there from I would say I don't know like second and the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, he and LaMarcus Aldridge just disappeared basically.
yeah,
And like you said, like that does happen a lot. And you know, I've I've heard the Kobe comparisons before, and I do see a little bit of that in his game, just in terms of the things that he can do on the court. But it's just so it's not all the time. I mean, it's not even just game to game. It's not even quarter to quarter almost.
Right, and he's like 5 or 6 years in now, so it's not
Yeah,
like
he's 20. He's 24. I mean, when Kobe was 24, he was, you know, he was lighting teams on fire,
right.
basically.
I think the other thing that is kind of feels shocking to me now, and maybe it just makes me feel old, but like if they like for whatever reason, if they didn't sign LaMarcus Aldridge this year, that team would be pretty mediocre.
They would not be good.
I mean, they'd still be a playoff team because Popovich is great and Kawhi Leonard, but they struggle to score, and sometimes it just feels. I mean, like tonight, they get whatever it is, 20 or 22 from Parker, but you can't really count on that. And Duncan's non-existent, and Manu's kind of non-existent, and then they have two starters who don't even score. Danny Green didn't score, and
Danny Green
so
didn't score. Duncan
yeah,
came in and contributed 5 fouls, and he didn't score.
yeah. I got to imagine like I guess probably win or lose, they're gonna have major roster turnover, right? Because
Uh,
Duncan's got to be done, and Ginobili's got to be done, and maybe Manu's or maybe Parker's done, but yeah, it's kind of weird like their rotation, and maybe it's because like I don't know if OKC's dictating it when they want to play Steven Adams and Enes Kanter, but like I mean you're having like old man David West out there with crunch time minutes, and I mean there's just nowhere for the ball to go other than Aldridge and really Parker because it's not like Kawhi handles it that much.
huh.
So
Yeah. I mean, yeah. When you shut down Leonard and Aldridge, or when they shut down, I don't know if it's so much I don't know if it's so much the Thunder. It's just I don't know. I mean, the problem with the Spurs is they're so they move the ball around. It's a team concept, which makes it kind of surprising that they didn't have many assists because I feel like they're always moving the ball. I mean,
right,
as a team, they shot 47%, so they didn't shoot it that poorly. It's hard. I will say, in this NBA, it's hard to win any game when you're only making two threes on the night,
yeah, that's a
which is
big
what
thing.
they did. And especially when Danny Green, I mean, that's the only reason he's really out there.
Right.
And he only took one. So, I mean, he doesn't score. Tim Duncan doesn't score. He plays 12 minutes. David West plays 25 minutes and he scores 8. These are guys that they kind of need. And like you said, if they're not going to be producing, then that means that Kawhi Leonard needs to carry the load, and he just hasn't shown it yet. I mean, that's kind of his next step.
Yeah. I
An
think the one,
elite
I
guy.
mean, when watching the Thunder in the fourth quarter, I mean, I don't know if it was maybe impressive isn't the right word, but at least for once it felt like Russell Westbrook knew, like, hey, it's not going for me tonight. Like, I don't need to throw up six more shots to like really see if it's not going.
Yeah, I mean
So
he's 5 of 18. That's not really.
yeah, but I mean,
It's not really gonna work.
I don't know what his numbers are in the fourth quarter, but he didn't take too many shots. I know that.
Yeah, yeah,
So, um, I mean, I guess it's exciting as like someone who is more just rooting for a big series. Like now it's like a minimum 6, so that's kind of
well, quality play. A
yeah,
big
like that's
series is
kind of
quality
nice.
play.
It does feel like, I mean, maybe this goes on and goes back and forth between conferences, but like the fact that this series is in the same round as like Miami, Toronto, like something's
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
You know, I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, like these are two teams that are like they're championship contenders. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I mean they're at the same level as the Hawks and the Heat and the Raptors. It's pretty it's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, I have to say. I mean, even I don't know. Even Portland isn't that great, but I mean they're through because the Clippers incurred some injuries,
right. Well,
but
I mean, and
they still got they still got Damian Lillard on their team.
yeah, and the bottom of the West was down, and that's fine. But like the top of the West, there's still a major gap between like the top of the West and the top of the East.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's just it kind of makes those like East Coast games like they're just I don't want to say unfun, but like I mean, just it's almost non-competitive.
It's not that it's non-competitive. It seems because I mean they had some close games. It's just that it's kind of foregone.
Well, I mean,
Like
I
you'd
don't mean
have to
yeah, I
see a
don't mean
collapse. Like you'd
I
have
don't
to see a
mean
collapse from the Cavs.
right, like, and I don't mean non-competitive in the games. I mean non-competitive in like yeah, like the series. Like yeah, Cleveland won by one today, but like it was a 3-0 series.
Right.
So
It's no matter what happens, and it doesn't really matter what goes on with the Heat and the Raptors because they're not winning anything.
right,
Like what
like
are
if
they
that
gonna win? Like they're
right.
not a team that can beat anyone from the West.
Like if it even gets to five, you'll feel like, wow, the Raptors or whoever got one,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
So
mean
back to
part
so
oh
go
good.
ahead. No, go for it.
Oh, part of it is I guess maybe with the Cavs and especially LeBron and he's been to so many finals that you don't want to it doesn't feel like they mailed in the regular season. And like I certainly suspect if like the Warriors were healthy and the Spurs and I may probably even OKC like I mean maybe not OKC because they lost one to Dallas but like those other teams are 8-0 would be 8-0 at this point now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean it's just I mean there's just a huge talent difference in what Atlanta does and what Cleveland does.
Right. It's true. So what do you think about you do you still feel like you feel like the Spurs are gonna pull this out?
The Spurs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean so I mean Oklahoma City's going to have to win one more in San Antonio. Um so I mean, 6 or 7, just because I feel like Kevin Durant will probably have like another night like tonight, like once more, probably game
Mm.
6. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just hard. It would just with the coaching matchup, like just with Billy Donovan being out there, and like kind of what happened at the end of game 3, like it's just hard to take them serious, like too seriously.
What you talked about on last week's pod about the difference in coaching at this point in the season, it couldn't have been more apparent, at the end of game 3 when you've got, what was it, 17 seconds left that
Right.
the Thunder had, and they're down 6, I think it was, or
No,
4.
they were down. Yeah, they were down 4.
Yeah, and they take what was it, 13 of the 17 seconds to
Yeah.
shoot a fall away 2-pointer from Dion Waiters.
Right, and like I mean,
It,
it's actually a great shot from him at the time. You know, I mean, it was a tough shot, but like,
it's a great make. It's not a
yeah, like,
great shot.
well, right. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not good.
I guess the thing is like, would you like to see, and maybe some of this comes from player awareness too, but like, you drop a play for a three, and like, sometimes when you're guarded, I still feel like you got to shoot it. Like, you got to shoot it,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
So, like, maybe in
because
that
you can't win the other way.
right, and maybe in that sense, like I was a little tough on Billy Donovan, but like it didn't look like they ran like a really well run play.
No,
So
and they didn't look like they ran the play very well, and they didn't know what to do when it didn't work out. Like they it was just like, we don't know what we're doing now.
right,
And it's hard to imagine a Billy Donovan team beating a Spurs team that has championship aspirations.
right. I mean, even like tonight, and like as good as Durant was, I mean, A, he's making some really tough shots, and B, it's a lot of like individual play.
Yeah.
Like they run a lot of high screen and roll, but it's not really like his creation isn't off of the screen and roll. It's more just like we're just gonna screen at the top of the key and see how San Antonio reacts, but like still Durant's just gonna play kind of one
And
on
he's
one
gonna
from
and
there.
he's gonna break it down. Right.
Right.
They're gonna give him a screen and he's gonna figure it out.
Right, exactly. And like it worked
That's
out.
not the flow of offense.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, I mean, it worked out because like, they did have a few times where like they switched David West onto him, which is
Uh,
obviously just a massive mismatch where like Durant either took advantage himself or like he found Waiters open for a wide open three.
hmm
Um, but like, I don't know, like, I just doesn't feel like that's their offense. Like, that's not a
hmm
play. It's not really like a play, I guess. So,
Right.
I mean, it's just him being a great player, making great plays.
hmm
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's move over to the Warriors here, because they dropped the game yesterday. They're still up 2-1. I think there was optimism that Steph Curry was gonna be able to play in Game 4. Steve Kerr kind of walked that back today and said it was doubtful that he would play.
Yeah.
Do you have any concern about the Warriors going
Um,
forward?
I would be more concerned if he did play because I still feel like it's not needed at this point.
Uh-huh.
Um, I mean, obviously, I'm not there every day, but like if I'm the Warriors and they win tomorrow and they go up 3-1, like I'm not playing them in Game 5 either.
Right.
Like now that you see this, Spurs Warriors, if you can get through Portland without playing him, you're looking at like getting him 3 weeks off, maybe even like a touch longer.
How how funny is it that they waited to the playoffs to get him some rest?
Who?
It's like
Steph?
the Warriors. I mean, they obviously didn't do it on purpose, but it's just funny
Right.
that, oh, okay, like now that the playoffs are here, we can just let him heal up while we win these games and actually get to
Well,
the games that
and
matter.
well, I mean, on the flip side, the thing, my other thinking is that if they can finish this in 5, they can get Draymond Green and Klay Thompson some rest because those guys probably could use an extra day here or
Right, right.
there. I mean, look, like from the Laker days, like Portland's a tough place to win, right? Like it's a tough
This
place
is
to
true.
win. Like they play great up there. The fans are great. Um, I mean, it's Portland's season. I'd kind of thought going in if Steph Curry didn't play, you were looking at 6 or 7 games. I still think it's probably 6 or 7 games. I think Portland's going to win tomorrow. Then they'll probably bring back Steph Curry and they'll win Game 5, and then I don't know. We'll see if they can close it out in
Well,
6, but that's my
I've seen
guess.
this. I've seen this 100 times from the Lakers. You know, they go up 2-0 and then they drop two, and everyone thinks that, it's like it's the
Right.
must-win Game 5, and then it's kind of a close game, but they pull it out, and then they just rip them to pieces in Game 6. I've seen it
Yeah.
so many times,
Yeah.
and that's probably likely in this series. I'm. It's one of those things. Like I watched a good amount of the game yesterday, and I think like Clay came out playing great, and Draymond Green played great, but they didn't get that third guy to really kind of help them out. Sean Livingston struggled a little bit.
Right.
Iguodala, I don't know that he scored. Maybe he might have had one free throw, but in Harrison Barnes, I know he's been mentioned in a lot of like stuff with Kevin Durant and how they're going to get him over to the Warriors. I just don't see how anyone can think that he is going like he's a guy who's ready to break out on some other team. I just don't see it. I mean, what was I can't remember the last time where he had a game where I was like, wow, like that's big. Like that was a big contribution that he gave them. And I
Yeah.
mean,
I
noticeably
don't I totally, yeah, I agree. I don't understand the thinking behind that behind him. Um I mean,
especially when like all he's seeing, like he never sees double teams. He's always gonna get the,
the
you
corner
know, the
3,
the what's that?
the corner 3.
He's gonna get the corner three. Whenever he's matched up, he's always gonna be against the other team's like third defender because they're chasing around Clay and having to deal with Green. Like no one's paying attention to him. Like he is in no better situation,
Yeah.
especially now that Curry's out, because
Yeah.
that's just a little bit more slack that needs to be picked up offensively, and he's
I
just
mean, My
Nothing.
guess is when they look back, or when they looked back at that game three, it was probably less about their offense and more about them giving up like 125.
They
Um,
did give up 120.
I mean, since Curry went out, and not that Curry's a bad defender, but he's not an elite defender. They're definitely better defensively without him. And so, they've been really good defensively when he's been hurt. I mean, that's whether Curry's playing or not, you give up 120, it's tough to win. So, like, I mean, that's my guess. And, like, at some point, if these guys are making contested shots, it's like, yeah, you just live with that because you feel like they're not always going to make contested shots. So, um,
Plus, I feel like the opponent they exert less energy on defense because they don't have Curry to worry about as much.
um,
He just
yeah,
like Damian Lillard, like he doesn't have to worry about Curry. McCollum doesn't have to worry about Curry. That Crab guy, he doesn't have to worry about him. So they're all just it frees them up mentally. They're gonna play better offensively because Curry's out.
well, I mean, look, they didn't shoot it great in game one or game two. So, I mean, that I don't know. I mean, I see the point, and yeah, maybe. Um, I guess my only thinking is like maybe it actually might be harder because now it's like you have to guard everybody even more instead of just kind of more focusing on one guy. But
Mm,
um, yeah, I mean, they're certainly better with Curry, like overall, but they're definitely better defensively without him.
right.
Um, I just wonder. Yeah, I mean, it'll just be interesting. Like, if he's doubtful for tomorrow, like I mean, I don't think he's not going to play, right?
Right. Right.
So, and then I think depending on if they win or lose, if they win, then I would say he's probably doubtful for game five. If they lose, he's probably probable for game five.
Yeah. At some
So
point, you got to play through some pain.
you're right, right. But like, I don't want you playing through that pain when you're up 3-1.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You know what I
I mean, you
mean?
don't have to at that point. Yeah.
Right. Like if you're up 3-1, you're a game away from having like another week off.
Right.
But yeah, if it's 2-2, like yeah, he's got to be out there. So
So going into the playoffs, I mean, obviously the Cavs they have this LeBron factor, where he could turn it on at any point, and that makes them a threat, like to win everything. But I feel like a lot of people felt like that was really all they had going for them was the LeBron factor. And these last 3 games now, I mean, they're averaging around 23s a game,
yeah,
23s made.
yeah,
This kind of that changes what I don't want to say their ceiling, but what like people's view of them, right? I mean, if they're going to be making 23s a game, and let's say they can't sustain that. Let's say it's more like 18 or 17 or 16 or whatever. Like that's still a lot more than they were doing. That in my opinion, that changes what they can do. I mean, I almost feel like they would be favored. I feel like they would be favored against San Antonio if that was the case. And I mean, it's a pick 'em for me against the Warriors. I mean, the thing with the Warriors is they'd be getting into a shootout with the best shooting team in the league. So that's always kind of a concern. But I don't know. It levels the playing field for sure.
I think with the Spurs, I totally agree. With the Warriors, I think it's unsustainable because you're going to be if you want to shoot and attempt and to make those many threes, you're leaving a lot of like really mediocre defenders out there, right? So like
Yeah.
having Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love on the floor, like that's a huge liability against the Warriors. And so like yeah, maybe the upside is you make some more threes, but man, you're going to give up a lot of threes. Um I mean their best like this is gonna sound crazy, but like their best bet, honestly, and it's not that Kevin Love's a poor defender because he's actually not. He's just a poor matchup for the Warriors, right? but like Kyrie Irving is a poor defender. Like he's just a poor defender. I mean,
Right.
their probably best bet would be like, and I don't want to say like he should play, basically like switch minutes, but like they would need to find Dellavedova more minutes than Kyrie Irving. Because the issue with having LeBron and Love and J.R. Smith out there won't be like, hey, we need to get some more buckets. It'll be like, how do we like get some stops? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you went like Dellavedova, LeBron, J.R. Smith, Channing Frye, and Kevin Love, like that's what I would do. Um,
Well, wouldn't you want? I mean, wouldn't you want to play just Irving with J.R. Smith? I mean, it's not like J.R. Smith is a great defender.
no, but that's the thing is like, I mean, I don't know who else they have for him though.
I guess.
So like, I mean, yeah, like obviously Kyrie Irving is a better player than Dellavedova, but like what Irving does best, like you don't really need, and what he does worse, like the other team's going to exploit it to no end. I mean, if you have Love and Irving on the floor, like they're just going to get put in about 484 pick and rolls. I mean, it's just going to be like every time down the floor.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not that he shouldn't play, but it would just be kind of in spurts. I mean, that's just what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's. I feel like that's a pretty good theory. It's just the guy who's making a large portion of the threes, like they're making 16 or 20 a game. Like it's Kyrie Irving. Like if you take
Um,
him off the floor, then that kind of negates what I think is leveling the playing field.
right,
Because
but
look at
what
it
I'm
like
saying
this:
though
like
is
it's not
it's
like
to
Damian Lillard is a good defender.
right, but like also like he's not having to guard Steph Curry. So like if Steph Curry's not playing, then sure. But
Yeah.
um if he is playing, which I mean at this point you would think like that's 3 more weeks away that he would be. Um I mean I don't think that their issue will ever be like, hey, we need to score more points. It'll be like, man, we cannot get any stops.
Mhm.
I mean that's ultimately how I think that they'd lose the series. Like they'd lose a lot of like 118, 105 games or something like that. And
Mhm.
it's not like when you lose like that, you're not thinking how do we get to 120. It's more like how do we get them like under 105 or around
Mhm.
105.
Mhm.
So
It's just it's what kind of touching on what we were talking about before. It's hard to gauge because the Cavs can't feel like they're being tested right now. They just can't. I mean,
yeah, like
maybe they do, but just watching it, you're thinking. I mean, this is at some point. Like I was watching earlier, and the Hawks were up 11, and I'm thinking they're just wasting time here. Like they're obviously the Cavs are going to come back, and they're probably going to win this game.
right. Yeah,
And they did.
they're totally outgunned.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be the same.
So
It's gonna be the same thing next round.
yeah, we're not going to see them really get put to the test,
Right.
which in my opinion is a negative. I mean, at some point you need to be tested on the way to the championship. It can't just be one game or one series because then it'll be too
Um.
late.
Yeah. For them, rest is never going to be an issue, right? Just because like
No.
they'll have already had so much rest. But
Yeah.
yeah, I even if they do get tested, like obviously it's the games are so spread out that they're not like playing back to backs or anything, so it's not that big of a deal.
Uh,
Um, yeah, I mean you still have like a lot of these guys who have like Kyrie even played in the one finals game last year. Kevin Love's never played in them, so like they've never really been in those guys have never really been in series like that.
mm.
So
Well, LeBron's
yeah,
been in a bunch.
yeah. So I mean this will be
So
six.
hopefully,
This will be six straight finals for him. Six straight.
unbelievable. That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, he's definitely in the right conference for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
sticking
mean,
to
it's
the
not just
NBA here.
well, it's not just six straight finals. It's like six straight finals where like I don't know that they played Do they play? Oh yeah, maybe with Miami. I think when he was in Miami, like one time they played Boston. Like I was thinking, like, has he even played an elimination game? But I think they were down 3-2 against Miami once, and then they
They
went to
they were down 3-2 against Boston.
or Boston, yeah, and he went there and he had like a monster game. But like the last like 3 or 4 years, that was like in the first year, I think, or the second year. But the last 3 or 4 years, they haven't played an elimination game, is my guess.
Well, in the you mean in the lead up?
In the Eastern Conference.
Oh, um, not off the top of my head.
Yeah.
No.
So like the last one was against Boston. So
Yeah. I mean, we could be wrong, but I can't think of one. Um, but yeah, keeping with the NBA and just, I mean, we were talking about it all week. I mean, I just don't understand why the officiating can't be better than it is. I'll never understand it. I mean, like yesterday in the Warriors and the Blazers game, I just felt like there's so many missed calls against the Warriors. Like the guys hitting the ball off of the Blazers player's hand, and you're just looking at the physics of it. The player slaps at the ball one way, it hits off the guy's hand the other way, and the ball goes out. Like just physics says it can only be off the Blazers player, and they give it to the Blazers, and they get the possession and they hit a three, and I mean it's a big deal. Like you can't just miss it, and I don't understand why in replay they need to stop the game and have the refs on the court look at it. I don't understand why they can't just get like a buzzer like it is in soccer when the ball goes over the goal line and they have the goal line technology
yeah.
and the play goes, and if the buzzer sounds, then it's a goal. And then they
Right.
stop playing. It's like, no, that's a goal, and they play it on. Like, I don't understand why they have to stop the game, which is why, like you were talking to me on the phone, it's like these possessions that are in the middle of the second quarter, like they're not. You can't review those, and you just have to play it, even though it's plain as day that they got the call wrong. And I don't understand why they can't do better at this. And I say it all the time about these tennis linesmen, or line people, I should say, because they're women too. Um, these people are serving the ball 150 miles an hour, and they have to call it in or out to like the millimeter. And I have to say, most of the time they're right. It's like, why can they be so good at that, but that these refs can't see who the ball went off of? I
I
don't
mean,
understand it.
yeah, I agree, and I mean it's obviously not just an issue with the NBA. It almost just makes me wonder, like maybe people were more naive to it because there weren't like the high def replays, but like how bad was officiating back in like the 70s and 80s and early 90s?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like I mean
horrible.
it's just got to be so frustrating.
Well, you don't have the high def. You didn't have as many cameras.
Right.
Like, I mean, I watch a lot of games, not so much basketball, but football games on YouTube, like from the early '90s or the late '80s or something.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these calls are just like I watch a lot of Notre Dame, and you know, the like if you ever watch the end of the Miami Notre Dame game in 1988, the touchdown that Miami scores with the receiver in the corner of the end zone. He catches it, he lands, and he gets up without the ball celebrating, and the guy's calling it a touchdown. He doesn't have the ball. He like dives down, never really has it. The ref calls it a touchdown, and he runs off without the ball.
Right. And then like it's like,
And
oh well, he called it. Like we're stuck with it.
it's not even talked about. It's not. It wasn't even replayed. It's just yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I guess
so
I
now
guess
it's
the
a little different, but at the same time, I don't understand why they can't be better. I really don't.
well, I mean, part of me understands. Like, I understand why they can't be better because it's really hard. But what I don't understand is why we don't use like correctable technology that we already have, right?
Right. Well, I mean, the argument you'll always get is because it slows the game down, which goes to my point. I don't understand why they need to stop the game and the officials need to go look at it. I don't get it. Just let the play run. I
Yeah.
mean, they do this with the 3-point line. Just let them run and let them call it out, and then someone in some center, some room or whatever watching
It's
the
in New
replay,
Jersey, I think. Yeah.
yeah, can just calm down and just say, hey, it went off the Blazers guy. It needs to be
Yeah.
Warriors ball, and then they just do it right then and they just go. I don't understand why they can't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it ruins the viewing experience for me. It really does. I just I know there's a game. If it's close, it's going to come down to a call or two, and they're going to get it wrong, and I'm not going to agree, and it's going to make me upset. And I'm going to think, why am I watching this stupid game when these officials can't get the game right?
I felt exactly like that in that I emailed you in that Red Sox Yankees game on Friday night. Like I
Oh,
don't really
with David Ortiz.
yeah, like I didn't really have a horse in the race, but like the kids are sleeping. I'm just kind of watching TV myself. It's like, oh, you know, it's a one-run game. It's the top of the ninth. The bases are loaded, and David Ortiz is up. So like I'll commit to those next 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
And I mean, it's just, I mean, here's the issue, and it actually works like in both ways, right? So like if you look at like the pitch diagnostics, like it'll show that 3-1 pitch, which like it crosses up McCann, right? Because it looks like he probably thinks it's gonna be a fastball, but it's like a slider.
Right. He
And so
definitely
like
didn't. The pitch that
he
was thrown
obviously
was not
yeah,
what
like
he thought.
he obviously does a terrible job at framing it. And so like he's catching the ball, going away, and then trapping it against the ground.
Right.
So the calls it a strike, and you're gonna use it under the guise of like, well, it's where it crossed the plate, right? Like the catcher catching it should have no bearing on it being a strike. Which,
Right.
yeah, in a perfect world, sure. But then the very next pitch, 3-2 pitch, it's right below his knees. You go back and you look at the pitch location online, and it's low. It's out of the strike zone.
Right.
And it's like, nope. But McCann stuck his glove out there, and he stuck it, and he sold the call. It's like, look, like either he did a terrible job framing it, and it should be a ball, or we're gonna just use this machine, and it's gonna call balls and strikes. So I mean, it's just super frustrating to watch, and that's not even something that is reviewable. Like even though it's in the ninth
Right.
inning.
Right. It's yeah, judgment call.
Yeah, which is weird because like if it's a judgment call, then like why is there a definition of what the strike zone is?
Yeah. I mean, you
Like
know
there
how I
is no
feel about
definition.
baseball and your unwritten rules, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but these ones are written.
I know,
Like
but everyone agrees that different umpires have different strike zones. I mean, everyone agrees to this.
right. Well, I mean, it's just like different umpires have different like not just that they have different strike zones, like they have different strike zones for different catchers, for different hitters, for different pitchers. I mean, this has all been proven over time. Like now we have the technology that we can see that like good pitchers get borderline calls just like good hitters get
Mm-hmm.
borderline calls,
Mm-hmm.
which is super frustrating. I mean, it's like that in the NBA too, you know. I mean, I don't know why it is, but that's how it is.
I mean, it's like it in the NBA. It's like that in the NFL. It's like that all over. And I almost think it's like you can make a case that they don't even want it to. They don't even want to fix it because controversy is sells, right? Like, are they
Um,
incentivized to fix it? Like, do you think that people would actually stop watching if they felt like, nope, like these guys just aren't good enough and it's ruining the experience for me, so I'm just not going to watch anymore?
well,
Like,
I
would that
will
ever
say
happen?
this, like I don't know if it's sort of is incentivized because look, like the NFL has expanded replay like more and more the last like 15 years, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, even baseball kind of has. And basketball. They've all Like, it's not to the point that me and you want, but it's more than it was 10, 15 years ago.
But is
Certainly.
that just them creating the illusion that they're trying to make it better? I mean, it's almost like the like with the helmet to helmet hit.
I
It's
think
like,
that
do they really want to fix it, or is it just like, because like we still don't know what a catch is.
I think they do want to. Well, I mean, so the NFL probably is like what the NFL wants is probably different than the other leagues, right? Because like their television is set up differently. Like
Right,
they've got to get out of those morning games and get into those
right,
afternoon games. So
right,
like for them, like time is even more of an issue.
right.
I mean, these NBA playoff games, people complain about how long baseball games take. I mean, these NBA playoff games are just as long.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they're brutally long.
right.
So, I mean, I just think like we like the way that they apply the technology now, like yeah, if you're reviewing every call, it's going to take 3.5, 4 hours. What I think is you have the technology that is not going to take that long, right? Like you should be able to
Mm-hmm.
get through these things. Same with baseball. Like you should be able to get through these things, you know, relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's obviously
Um,
super frustrating.
Look, anytime you have a situation like we saw at the end of our podcast last week with the Thunder and the Spurs, when the officials blow 5 calls in, what was it, 13 seconds?
Well, the first four are like before like the ball's even inbounded.
Well, let's just stick to what they copped to. They copped to
Yeah,
5 missed calls in 13 seconds at the end of the
right.
game. I, I mean, how does that happen? Like that's ridiculous. That's basically the entire play they got wrong. An entire sequence of events they got incorrect.
Well, so part of it is this, right? And like I imagine as a referee in any sport, um, you always hear, especially like from outside noise, like, hey, we want the players to decide the end of games.
Right?
But like at some point, like you know, like I do want players to decide the end of games, but like I also would like the rule book to be applied at
I,
some
I would
point.
like the rules of the game to also be enforced.
Right. It's
It's
not
like
like
you.
it's
It's like you said. It's like if that's true, then I don't even want the ball. Like I'd rather only play defense then.
yeah. I mean, it's not like in baseball the umps can just be like, I'm not calling balls or strikes. You guys decide this.
Yeah. You guys figure it out.
Yeah, like I mean, I get it to a certain extent, right? And like this is why part of it, what's always been super frustrating, and like because they do swallow their whistle. So it's like, no, I never want really a guy to like go attack the basket because like he's
Right.
gonna probably get fouled, altering his shot, and it's not gonna get called.
Right.
So it's like, no, just like I'd rather settle for an open jumper
Yeah.
than like a contested like layup or whatever. But I mean, some of the stuff isn't even like, I mean, some of the stuff isn't even like judgment cally. It's like Manu Ginobili steps out of bounds. Like, nope, it's in the rule book. Like that's a technical foul at that point in the game. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to make a judgment call. Like that's the rule. Um,
And then
I mean,
Dion Waiters like shoves him from an out of bounds inbounding
right.
position, and then they say, "Oh well, we've never seen it before." It's like, well, it has to be something. It can't be nothing.
And then Russell Westbrook's running right in front of the referee, and Kawhi Leonard's grabbing his jersey. And then Kevin Durant's
Yeah,
trying to grab the ball, and Danny Green's like trying to break his forearm.
and he gets speared.
Yeah, I mean, I just like
Like I said, man, whatever happened to Kevin Durant at the end of that game? Like, if his NFL like targeting is in play, and they're
yeah,
going to
I
review to
just
see if the guy needs to be ejected.
that's why like the Dion Waiters thing to me, like that's whatever. It's just one. It's just one of five other calls.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
not any more or less egregious, but it's just one of whatever.
So
So
I don't know. I hope at some point it can get figured out because I mean obviously won't, but it's just super frustrating and super ridiculous, and I hate having to deal with it. And it honestly, like, it's one of the best things about the Lakers not being any good is that it doesn't, like, it's just something that annoys me, but it's not going to like ruin my night like it would if this was a Laker game.
Yeah. You know what?
Um,
And getting back to what you said about like, do they have any incentive? Like, we're the wrong people to ask, right? Because like we follow this stuff so closely. So like your average fan, like they probably don't like unless it happened to their team. Like they don't generally care about these sorts of things. They don't.
right, but then isn't that more incentive for them to not really fix it then?
Um, I mean, I guess they probably weigh fixing it against like the what's the cost of fixing it, and not like
Right,
money, but like time,
right.
right? So yeah, I mean, like they'll never come out and say it, but like getting these games over in a timely manner is more important than getting every single call right. Obviously, it obviously is.
Right. So, really quickly, we're gonna make this a short one today because it's just mostly the NBA to talk about. But the Kentucky Derby did take place yesterday. Did you watch it?
I did.
Okay. Nyquist, right?
Yes.
Okay, Nyquist was the winner, and Nyquist was the favorite, 2-1 favorite. Naturally, anytime, you know, whenever the Kentucky Derby, the winner, they always question the Triple Crown. We didn't see a Triple Crown winner for like 30, 40 years, right? Before last year.
I think it was like 79.
Right. So we're not going to get any back to back, right?
Um,
I mean, is
I
it
mean,
kind of like, yeah, I guess, but what are the
so like,
chances kind of thing? I don't know
right,
much
like,
about horse racing, so.
yeah, so like the odds are just gonna dictate like, no, we're not. But like, yeah, like you said, like anytime there's a trip, anytime whoever wins the Kentucky Derby, it's like, well, you're already a third of the way there.
Yeah.
Um,
And especially when it's the favorite.
right. I mean, that certainly does make it a little more likely, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because you feel like, I mean, he's obviously was good. Now, I mean, the only other side to that is there used to be a lot more Triple Crown winners before. Like
Right, 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 right.
this was like a long time. So like I don't know how many there was before. Like I don't know if it was back to back or whatever, but I know there was a few Triple Crown winners like within the past 30 years before whatever the last I don't know who the last horse won was like Seattle Slew or Affirmed or something. Maybe they both won. But I mean there was
Well, so it went prior to American Pharoah last year. The one before was Affirmed in '78, and then but the run in the '70s was Secretariat in '73, Seattle Slew in '77, and Affirmed in '78. So the last, prior to the big gap, the last ones were back to back. So I guess, I mean, because it's always fun. Like it's only really fun if you can have a Triple Crown winner.
yeah, like I'm only making a point to watch that third one if it's in play, right?
Right,
Because I
right.
generally don't care and I don't bet, but yeah, I mean it's fun. It's more fun when there is.
Uh-huh. I mean, I don't know
So I
about the
mean,
name. The name kind of worries me a little bit. Nyquist,
well,
Nyquist,
the
not
best
really.
the best thing about being a casual horse racing fan is that like I only have to stay interested for like 2 minutes at a time.
Right,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
I mean, it's like 6 minutes of your life.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
It's so perfect.
yeah. And
I
they
mean, I'm
let you
far
know
more
exactly
interested.
when the race is gonna post.
Yeah, like I'm far more interested in horse racing than I am in auto racing, just because like I can watch the whole thing in basically in the commercial break of whatever else I'm watching.
Yeah, one lap,
Yeah,
not 500.
exactly.
All right, buddy. We'll wrap it up with that. Thank you everyone for listening. We went a heavy NBA today because that's pretty much the important stuff that's going on. We wanted to hit that hard, and then talk a little bit about the Kentucky Derby. Um, Next week we'll probably do the same thing. We'll probably have some NBA going with that. We'll have
We'll
the
have
Players
how about
Championship.
at least 5 minutes of hockey next week?
5 minutes of hockey.
Yeah.
Can we make it 4?
I'll make it 4.5. You only have to speak for like 30 seconds.
All right, that's cool. We'll talk a little hockey next week. We'll talk NBA. The Players Championship will have just wrapped up, so we'll touch on that a little bit if something interesting happens there. Um, Again, I am on Twitter at Greg2126. This is Morning Paper. I don't believe we're on iTunes yet. Our producer, Mike Muto, I'll have to find out from him whether or not we're going to get that going. I'll send a link on my Twitter feed. Mike will probably post it on the Facebook page, and give us a listen. We're just getting started out. Hopefully we get better at this. Hopefully you guys are liking it so far. So, yeah, we will talk to you next week. See you, Timmy.
All right, sounds good. Later.
Later.